You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
UConn currently is 7-3. It's the most wins they've had in a regular season since 2010. That's 14 years ago. So UConn football is having themselves a pretty nice season by their standards. UConn is led by head coach Jim Mora. And no, it's not the Jim Mora that said this.
Playoffs?
That is actually his father, Jim Mora Sr. The coach of UConn is Jim Mora Jr. Okay? So just to get that out of the way, he's been with the program since 2022. And in his first season, he took UConn to a bowl game for the first time since 2015. They fell back a little bit last season, going 3-9. But they have rebounded, obviously, this season. As I said, they already have clinched their most regular season wins since 2010. So this is basically the best UConn football team in 14 years. And part of the reason why, yeah, Syracuse should be favored. Yeah, Syracuse should win this game. But it might not come so easily because UConn is better than they have been in the years past. And Jim Mora is actually a pretty good coach, by the way. He was the head coach of UCLA from 2012 to 2017, and he did quite well there. He had a couple of 10-win seasons, and he led UCLA to 4 straight bowl appearances to start his tenure there. Obviously, things fell off a bit towards the end, but he was pretty good with UCLA while he was there. Also, UConn against ACC competition this season, they fared quite well. They've played 2 ACC games this year. They lost by 5 to Duke this season on the road. They were on the road at Duke, and they only lost by 5. That's a one-possession game. And last month, they played Wake Forest, and they lost by 3. I know those aren't the ACC football powers that you would expect. It's not Clemson. It's not Miami, right? Not Florida State, which Florida State sucks this year anyway, so what's the point? But still, they've played a couple of ACC teams, and they've been very competitive in those games. And Syracuse football cannot take this team lightly. This is not an automatic victory. Should Syracuse win? Yes. It's not an auto victory, okay? Let's get into UConn's offense and what they like to do. The key is very simple for Syracuse football here. They got to stop the run. They have to stop the run. Now, good news. Fran Brown said earlier this week that he expects that defensive end, Dennis Jaquez, he's going to be back. That's good news. He's back from injury this week, so that's good for Syracuse's defensive front. But that's UConn's strength, running the football. That's what they want to do. UConn runs the football on average on 57% of their plays. 57% of the time they are going to run the football. They have 3 running backs. All 3 running backs average at least 5 yards per carry. All 3 running backs have played in every single game this season. And all 3 of those running backs have rushed for over 500 yards. So they don't just do it with 1 guy. They don't just do it with 2 guys. They do it with 3 guys. Durell Robinson, Camryn Edwards, and Jayden Brown. 3 running backs. 3 of them. All over 5.5 yards per carry. Played every game. All over 500 yards. I would say that's pretty good. I know they haven't played, again, the toughest competition in the world, but they can run the football at a pretty high clip. It's also a credit to their offensive line, and they have a veteran offensive line. 4 of their 5 starters, last time I checked, are upperclassmen, and I believe 3 of those guys are seniors. It's a good veteran offensive line that UConn has, and they can run the football at a high level. And when UConn does decide they want to throw the ball, okay, when they throw the ball, their quarterbacks, I can't really speak today, their quarterbacks get sacked less than 4% of the time. Now, for context for you guys, what does that mean, right? Less than 4% of the time. Is that good or bad? It's pretty good. That is top 30 in the country. I would say that's pretty good. Top 30 in the country. That's a credit to their offensive line for keeping their quarterback upright. And every running back being over 5 yards per carry is also credit to their veteran offensive line that they have. Really, the key for Syracuse is to stop the run. And the reason why is because UConn football has two quarterbacks, neither of which I would consider are very, very good. Okay? I believe their starter is Nick Evers. So let's just roll with him. But both of their quarterbacks, regardless, complete less than 60% of their passes. They're not very accurate. I think Evers is a little bit more mobile. But really the key, it's not just stopping the run for this game, okay? It's easy to say, let's stop the run. But for Syracuse football, in terms of what they have to do defensively and offensively, they got to get ahead. They got to get ahead in this game. Because if you force UConn to have to throw the ball to get back in the game, I don't think they can do it. I don't. And I'll get to later on the show kind of what this game reminds me of. And it's going to star a lot of you people. But that's the truth. If Syracuse football gets ahead in this one early, I don't think UConn is going to stand much of a chance. However, if Syracuse, let's say, stalls out the first couple of drives, UConn football is able to run the football down their throats, and they take, a 14-3 lead in the second quarter, Syracuse could be in trouble. That's why I'm saying this is not an auto victory for Syracuse. They got to get ahead early, because if they get ahead early, I don't think that UConn is going to be able to throw themselves back into this game. I just don't think they can do it. So that is an overview of UConn's season overall, as well as a brief little talk about their offense. In summary, they love to run the ball. They can do it at a high level. They have a good offensive line. Their quarterback play is not the greatest in the world. So really what Syracuse has to do is get ahead early and force UConn to throw the football. Those are the keys to stopping UConn's offense, and also really for Syracuse as a team to just get ahead overall.